Dragons. Legendary creatures of fire and shadow, known for their destructive power and insatiable greed. From Glaurung's malevolent cunning to Smaug's fiery devastation, dragons left their mark on Middle-earth. Yet, by the time of The Lord of the Rings, these monstrous beings seem to have vanished. Where did they go? Why didn't we see them during the War of the Ring? Let's look at this today.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor. I am death.
Dragons were not natural creatures, but creations of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. In the Silmarillion, we learn that Morgoth bred these fearsome beings to serve as weapons in his wars against the free peoples of Middle-earth, combining immense physical power with intelligence and cunning. They were forces of devastation unlike any other. The first dragon, Glaurung, emerged in the First Age. Known as the Father of Dragons, he wielded both physical strength and psychological manipulation, leaving ruin in his wake. His curses shaped the tragic tale of Turin, Turambar, and Nienor. Glaurung's malice set the standard for dragons as beings of greed and destruction. In the War of Wrath, Morgoth unleashed a new and even more terrifying kind of dragon. Winged, fire-breathing behemoths led by Ancalagon the Black. These dragons nearly turned the tide of the war, but Eärendil, aided by the eagles, defeated them. Ancalagon's fall marked the end of Morgoth's reign and the end of the First Age. While many dragons perished in that final conflict, others fled to the withered heath in the northern reaches of Middle-earth. These survivors lingered into later ages, though their influence waned. By the Third Age, only Smaug remained as a significant threat, hoarding the treasures of Erebor until his death in the story of The Hobbit. Dragons had once been central to Middle-earth's great conflicts, but their numbers dwindled as ages passed. By the time of The Lord of the Rings, they were a fading echo of Morgoth's former power. By the Third Age, those once mighty dragons had receded into obscurity. The withered heath, nestled between the Grey Mountains and the Iron Hills, is mentioned in Tolkien's writings as the last stronghold of these creatures. Smaug himself is said to have come from this desolate region, described in The Hobbit as a great dragon of the north. However, Tolkien leaves the fate of the remaining dragons largely unexplored, shrouding their existence in mystery. Several factors explain their absence during The Lord of the Rings. Firstly, dragons were inherently solitary and difficult to control. Unlike Morgoth's other creations, dragons served him out of fear or manipulation, not loyalty. By the Third Age, their isolation and diminished numbers likely rendered them insignificant on the broader stage of Middle-earth. Secondly, the focus of the Third Age was on Sauron, whose power overshadowed all other threats. Dragons, while formidable, were not directly tied to Sauron's plans and posed no immediate threat to his enemies. Their greed and unpredictability made them ill-suited for alliances, even with a Dark Lord. Finally, Tolkien's narrative deliberately shifted toward the mortal free peoples of Middle-earth, the great powers of earlier ages, Morgoth, the Valar, the dragons. These were fading into legend. By the time of The Lord of the Rings, dragons were relics of a bygone era, their influence lingering only in stories and the scars they left on the world. The War of the Ring raises an intriguing question. Why didn't Sauron, with all his might, enlist the remaining dragons to his cause? Surely this would only improve his force. Dragons, though powerful, as mentioned, were fiercely independent. Unlike orcs or trolls, they were driven by their own desires, particularly an insatiable hunger for treasure. Sauron, despite his influence, could not guarantee their loyalty or control. Their presence might have been as dangerous to his own forces as his enemies. Geography actually played a role as well. The surviving dragons were confined to that withered heath region in the far north, distant from the key battles of the War of the Ring. Sauron's efforts were concentrated in the south and in the west, and summoning dragons from their remote lairs may have been impractical, even for him. Additionally, dragons' numbers and powers had significantly diminished by the Third Age. Smaug, described as the last great dragon, was slain before Sauron's final rise. If the remaining dragons were smaller, weaker, or even fewer in number, they may not have posed a significant enough threat to influence the outcome of the war. Lastly, Tolkien's thematic choices must also be considered. The Lord of the Rings emphasizes the waning of ancient powers and the rise of mortal heroes. Dragons, as relics of Morgoth's dominion, symbolized an age that had well and truly passed. Their absence reflects the broader themes of decline and the shift in focus towards men, hobbits, and the fight for a new era. So, with all of this, while dragons do not appear in The Lord of the Rings, it's still safe to say their legacy is undeniable. They are true symbols of greed, corruption, destruction, forces that continue to shape Middle-earth long after their decline. Smaug's hoarding of Erebor's treasure set the events of The Hobbit in motion, indirectly influencing the resistance against Sauron. Thorin's struggle with dragon sickness mirrors the corrupting influence dragons embodied, showing how their power lingered even in their absence. In Tolkien's writings, dragons represent the dangers of unchecked ambition and greed. Their role in shaping Middle-earth's history serves as a reminder of the cost of such desires. Even as they fade into legend, even if their power is not as it once was, their impact remains. After all, it has been woven into the fabric of Middle-earth's mythology. And so, there you have it. Where were the dragons during The Lord of the Rings? By the Third Age, their time really had just kind of passed, but their legacy, that is what remained. Though the great dragons were gone, the greed, the destruction, the corruption, this is what remained in the memories of those that still lived, shaping the choices and struggles of Middle-earth's peoples. Their absence wasn't an oversight by Tolkien by any means, but a reflection of the evolving threats of his world. Dragons belonged to an age of myth, their shadows still influencing events, even without their presence. And as a Welshman myself, I will always find dragons some of the greatest mythological creatures. But now it is your turn. Does their absence enhance their legacy, or do you wish that they'd actually had a role in the War of the Ring? Share your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. And along with this, if you would like to support the channel in other ways, please consider our Patreon. You can't always rely on YouTube itself, so this extra support will really help the channel stay strong and keep us getting that content out for you. But with that, thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.